guys. So still working on some kinks with the video. So you probably already saw this slide, but just in case you didn't. So now we're going to talk a little bit about some groups on the periodic table. Some big groups first, 3 of those, and then some smaller groups. I want you guys to know 4 of those. So the first big group is metals. Remember, some examples of metals would be like copper and gold, silver. All right, and these characteristics would fit all of those guys. So one big one is they can be made into wires, and then they are really good conductors of heat and electricity. Conductors means they can move heat and electricity, or it can move through them pretty easily. All right, and then next big group, we talked about all these guys yesterday in our vocabulary. You probably had them on your quiz. But these are the nonmetals, so they're gases at room temperature, like oxygen and nitrogen. They're usually brittle, and they're not good conductors of heat and electricity. So basically the opposite of our metals. All right, the metalloids even more simple. They just kind of are a blend of both. All right, so they might be a solid like a metal, but be a bad conductor like a nonmetal. So for example, silicone, arsenic are some metalloids. And there's not many of these. All right, now some more specifics and smaller groups I want you guys to know. First one, on the very far left of your periodic table, is group number 1. These are the alkali metals. All right, one thing, these guys all, since they're group 1, they have 1 outer electron. They're very reactive, and they're never found in elemental form. What that means is you'll never find lithium all by itself, just kind of floating off in space. The reason why is it's really reactive. Okay, so it's explosive. So lithium has to form a compound. All right, otherwise it's very, very dangerous. Same thing would be true for all of these guys in group number 1. They're all very reactive, very explosive. All right, right next to them on the chart is your alkaline. So similar, but you got to add the Ne, and then earth metals. This is group 2, directly next to our alkali metals. They have 2 outer electrons. They're still really reactive, and they're also not going to be just, you won't find magnesium just floating around by itself. It's going to have to form a bond with another element. Okay, then we go to the other side of the periodic table. Group 17, or group 7, starting with fluorine all the way down to astatine. These are called halogens, all right? They have 7 outer electrons. Remember group 7? 7 outer electrons. They're also very reactive, and they're actually going to react and form compounds with our group number 1, with our alkali metals. We'll talk more about why that is, but you can kind of guess, probably a little bit on your own already. When they make these compounds, they're called salts. So when sodium, which is a group 1 alkali metal, bonds with chlorine, that's table salt, right? NaCl. So any of these guys that form a bond with group 1, they're going to be called salts. Then the group right next to the halogens, group 8, or 18, all right, these are the noble gases. Okay, so they are full of electrons with 8, except for helium, but we won't really worry about helium right now. But all these guys have 8 outer electrons. They're in group 8. And the important thing is they're not going to react because they're full of electrons. All right, and all these guys are gases. All of them are gases. So they won't react with anything to form a compound. Okay, then the last group of elements is the transition metals. You don't need to know a lot about these, but these are most of the metals that'll be in the middle of your periodic table. They're good conductors, they're malleable, and they're going to be solid. So like copper, gold, silver, all these guys are transition metals. They transition us from the alkali and alkaline metals over to the halogens, nonmetals, and noble gases. All right, now what I want you guys to do, pull out the paper periodic table that you should have picked up when you came into class, and we are going to color some stuff. I want you guys to do a really good job of this. One, because you're going to get to keep this and use it. And two, you're going to get to use it on your next test. Actually, your next 2 tests. So if you do a good job coloring in the groups, highlighting the important stuff, it will help you a lot on your test. So make sure you do a good job and do it neat. So the first thing you need to do is get some colored pencils. You can also get some markers, but colored pencils would be best. All right, make sure you get at least a blue, a green, and then I only have red for my pen, but you guys should get a yellow. So get those 3 colors, and then you probably want to get a couple more colors. So if there's an orange, a red, a brown, you probably want 5 to 6 colors. You at least need a blue, a green, and a yellow. And then you probably want to grab a red or an orange, a brown, something else. And we are going to kind of color in a few of our different groups. All right, and as I'm doing this, you guys can also use your textbook. Which remember is that blue book that most of you have under your desks. If you flip to the very back page, you should see an already colored in periodic table. We're basically going to follow that pattern. All right, but there'll be a couple other things we do differently. So that'll help you, but you also need to follow along. The first thing we want to do is we want to color around, all of our metals in blue. I already made a mistake because hydrogen is actually not a metal. So I don't want to put blue in it. All right, I'm take blue around all my metals. But we're not, notice I'm not coloring them in. I'm just highlighting around them. The reason we don't want to color them in is I want you guys, if you color them in, then you're not going to be able to see the information you need when you're taking your test or something like that. So just highlight them. Now this bottom group sticks out of your table. Those are all metals as well. So you can circle those and you can go ahead and fill those in. Okay, make them blue. But you still want to be able to see the information, so don't color them in too dark. Just give them a little shade of blue so you know that they're metals. All right, as you're doing this, you also want to be making a key. So at the top of your periodic table, you might put a blue mark. Right next to it, metals. So you know when you see the color blue, that's referring to your metals. Now, I'm going to have to use my book here, so make sure I make the right turn at the right place. So I'm going over to about 113. I'm going to go up. Then I'm going over past bismuth, and then I'm going to go up. And then I've got to kind of snake it back and forth. All right, making a little stair step. And encompassing the little. So there's my metals. Okay, we just highlighted around them, we haven't colored them. Alright, the next biggest group is going to be our non-metals. So I'll add that to my key. So non-metals. And you guys should do this in yellow. I don't have a yellow pen, so I've got to do it in red. And remember on my key already, I have all the metals outlined. Okay, so again, we're going to outline the nonmetals. So I'm going to start over here, going down to about radon, cutting in, and then I'm going to have to stair step up. This is where looking at your book at that very back page will help you. Make sure you get the stuff right. Alright, so here's our nonmetals, and then we got one more guy by himself over here, hydrogen. Those are your nonmetals. Now don't color them in yet. So don't fill them in yet. Just leave them blank. Okay, just outline them in your yellow, or in my case I did red. Alright, the last group I'm going to do is metalloids. These I'm going to outline in green. I'm adding them to my key. Remember I already have metals and non-metals outlined. So this one should be easier. For me it's a little hard because I got to remember where my line was. I'm going to outline these guys. Again, it's kind of stair steps down. And I'm looking at the book so I don't color the wrong stuff. This is where you want to be neat, get it all right. That way if I ask you a question on a test about what element's a metalloid, you know. Okay, so here's our metalloids. Boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, polonium, astatine. Again, we're not coloring them in yet. be able to read them. These are our metalloids. Okay, so now I'm going to do, we did our three big groups of metals, nonmetals, metalloids. So remember all my metals over here outlined in blue. So now I'm going to start shading in a little bit. Alright, and I'm going to get more specific. So I got alkali metals. So what I would do is I would shade that in maybe half blue. Remember, don't cover up the numbers you need to see. And then maybe add a second color. So the only other color I've got is a black, so I'm going to shade that in black. Alright, and then on my key, I know that blue and black, these are my alkali metals. Okay, so that way I don't have to memorize, but I know, hey, this group number 1, other than hydrogen, those are my alkali metals. Okay. Then I'll do the same thing with my other groups. So alkaline, remember, is right next to it. These are already outlined in blue. Okay, so I'll shade them half in blue. Again, not covering up the numbers and the stuff I need to see. Then I'll add a second color. In this case, I'll add green. You shouldn't add green. You should have some other colors. So maybe use your red here, your orange, your brown. Use another color. Okay, if you use green, you might think it's a metalloid. All right, and whatever color you use, so I use blue and green. So then I know on my key, that's my alkaline earth metals. All right, last two groups we talked about, halogens. So these should already be outlined in yellow. Okay, right here. I've only got red. And you're going to shade them half in red or yellow. So you should use yellow. And then maybe, let's say, a green, or you guys have another color. All right, then I'll make my key. So I know that green plus red is a halogen. Okay, so I'll add that up here at the top. All right, very last group. The noble gases. All right, these should already be outlined as well in yellow. So I'll shade it half in yellow and run red because I just have a red pen, and maybe some black. So then I'll make my key. Red and black means noble gases. Okay, so that way when you guys take the test, you don't have to memorize all these little groups. You don't even have to remember where the metals are. You can just look at what you have colored in. Okay, and then when you're finished, it should look something like this. So the whole middle area here, you can shade in blue. Just make sure you can still see the numbers you need and the symbols. Remember, your key should have everything labeled. So blue is just metals. For me, red is non-metals, but for you guys, it's probably yellow. The green is my metalloids. And then I've got some of my special groups, all right? So I've got blue and red. This is my alkaline. All right, so I went ahead and wrote all these so you guys didn't have to watch me do it. But like I was saying, red and blue over here would be my alkaline earth metals. You guys probably use a different color with blue. That's good. All right, and then black and blue is my alkali metals right here. My halogens, green and red, so you probably use yellow in another color. Noble gases, yellow in another color. Okay, I have them shaded, so I kind of know where they are. Hopefully yours looks more neat than mine. You guys' handwriting is better. But this would help you to know where stuff is and to use on your test. All right, then just a couple questions. I want you guys to practice using your periodic table. Answer these in your notes. So find neon. Neon is a what? What group is it in? And then is it very reactive? So maybe go back to your notes after you figure out where it is using your key and your periodic table. And then number 2 is Fe. So find Fe. Is it a good conductor? Why or why not? So use your periodic table. And then list an element that Cl might bond with. So go back to your notes. Use your periodic table and your key, figure out an element that might bond. Hope this video was helpful, guys. Have a good weekend. I'll see you on